Noah, God's trumpet call presence, encounter the living Messiah. History of Noah, Genesis chapter 6 verse 9 to chapter 6 verse 22. Birth of Noah is recorded in the Torah in Genesis chapter 5 verse 28 to 29. The Torah says, in his generation, Noah was a man righteous and wholehearted. Noah walked with God. Rabbis interpret this text in two ways. One of the interpretations is that Noah was righteous only in comparison to the evil lifestyle that prevailed during his time. But the Torah clearly says that he was a righteous man who walked with God. And in Genesis chapter 7 verse 1, Adonai testifies personally to Noah's righteousness before him. This brings us to the second interpretation, which says that Noah was righteous and spiritually mature despite the evil that prevailed among the people of his generation. This teaches us that neither culture, habits of nation, surrounding people, or environment can be held responsible for a person's way of life. This also teaches us that everyone has a responsibility to live righteously and wholeheartedly before God. The Torah says during the time of Noah, the whole earth was corrupt, but Noah remained righteous, and he was blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Genesis chapter 6 verse 9. Torah provides only a glimpse of Noah's activities in the days leading up to the flood, and the narrative in Genesis is focused on his work building the ark. It took about 100 years or little less than 100 years for Noah to build the ark. Building the ark itself was a testimony to the coming flood because it was God's instruction to Noah to build the ark to save himself and his family and the animal kingdom from the flood. And during this time he may have proclaimed a message of repentance to the wicked and adulterous generation of his time. Apostle Peter in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 5 called Noah a preacher of righteousness. Noah warned his generation about an imminent day of divine fury and judgment. His message offered a repentance, offered men a means of deliverance through which they could be saved from the fate about to befall them. Did Noah prefigure the Messiah? Genesis chapter 5 verse 28 to 29 say that Lamech fathered a son. He was 182 years. He called him Noah. Lamech gave him this name, saying that he will give them rest, comfort from our work and from the toils of our hands. Genesis chapter 5 verse 29. Noach means comforter. The name also alludes to Messiah. Comforter is a form of the word Menahem. According to sages of the Talmud, name Menahem is one of the names of Messiah. In Lamentations chapter 1 verse 16, the word Menahem is used to refer to the Comforter. Yeshua HaMashiach told his disciples that I will pray the Father, and he will give you another Comforter, that he may abide with you forever. This indicates that up until that time he had filled that title. The apostles of Yeshua HaMashiach referred to him as an advocate with the Father. 1 John chapter 2 verse 1 to 2. In Genesis chapter 6 verse 9 we see that Noah's name, the messianic title, repeated twice. This may hint towards the first coming of the Messiah and the second coming of the Messiah. Yeshua HaMashiach himself said in Matthew chapter 24 verse 37, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. The apostles compared the salvation God brought to the mankind and the continuity of all creation through Noah. Noah found grace in the sight of God. Through God's grace, he saved him and his family. However, the Messiah will bring salvation to the whole world. Impending catastrophe. Yeshua preached repentance to the people. In his second coming, God's judgment will come on the whole earth. The Torah describes the conditions of the earth that prevailed on earth during the time of Noah through God's perspective. Adonai saw that the people on earth were very wicked, that all the imaginations of their hearts were always of evil only. Adonai regretted that he had made humankind on the earth. It grieved his heart. Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 to 6. So Adonai said to Noah that he will wipe out humankind, whom he created from the whole earth. Not only human beings, but animals, creeping things, and birds in the air, for God regretted that he ever made them. So Adonai told Noah to build an ark and gave details of how to do it. But Adonai said, I will establish my covenant with Noah. He and his family must enter the ark. And Noah was instructed to bring from every living, from each kind and living being, 2 into the ark, to keep them alive with Noah, and they were to be male and female. Genesis chapter 6 verse 14 to 21. In verse 22, Torah says, this is what Noah did. He did all that God ordered him to do. Noah was obedient. He built the ark as instructed by Adonai, preached righteousness to the people of his generation, and warned the people of the coming destruction on earth. Yet the people ignored the warnings and went on with their lives as normal. As God said, it began to rain, and the water overpowered the earth mightily. In verse 22 it says, everything in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, whatever was on dry land died. In the narrative of Noah, Apostle Paul saw the coming judgment of Adonai on earth. Prior to establishment of his kingdom on earth, Yeshua HaMashiach's second coming is associated with the day of judgment. According to Romans chapter 1, verse 18, God's wrath will be revealed from heaven against all ungodly, unrighteous, and wicked men who suppress the truth. And every generation will be judged by the righteous judgments of God. Before God established his kingdom on earth, the earth and its inhabitants will pass through a time of travail. God will deal with earth's inhabitants during this time, and his enemies will be defeated. By the grace of Adonai, Noah and his family and creatures that went into the ark survived the flood and repopulated the earth. Likewise, those who know the Messiah and his saving grace, symbolized by the ark, will pass through the cleansing waters of judgment and enter the kingdom. Who will be left behind? For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood on its ungodly people, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness, and 7 others, if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah by burning them to ashes, and made them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, and if he rescued Lot, a righteous man, who was distressed by the depraved conduct of the lawless. For that righteous man, living among them day after day, was tormented in his righteous soul by the lawless deeds he saw and heard. If this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from the trials and to hold the unrighteous for punishment on the day of judgment. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 to 9. Apostle Peter warns us that just like the people did in Noah's day, the generation of the Yeshua HaMashiach's return will ignore the warnings. People will be occupied with their day-to-day activities and pleasures of this world until the day the Lord suddenly comes on them. Luke chapter 17 verse 27 says that people were eating, drinking, marrying, and being given in marriage up to the day Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all. It was the same in the days of Lot. Verse 28. But the day the Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. Verse 29. And it will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed. Verse 30. With Yeshua HaMashiach's second return, judgment will come on the entire world. According to Luke chapter 17, verse 34 to 35, and Matthew chapter 24, verse 40 to 41, some will be taken away in that day and some will be left behind. A very popular interpretation of these verses is that those who will be taken out will meet the Messiah in the sky. This may be a popular teaching, but those who are taken away in Matthew chapter 24, verse 40 to 41, and Luke chapter 17, verse 34 to 35 are not joining Messiah in the air, but they are taken away in judgment. So the disciples asked the Lord, they wanted to know where it's going to happen. And Yeshua HaMashiach answered, wherever there is a carcass, there will the vultures gather. Those left behind in Matthew chapter 24 and Luke chapter 17 are the righteous, like Noah and his family that survived the flood. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 9 says that if this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to hold the unrighteous for punishment on the day of judgment. In Amos chapter 3 verse 7 it says, surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. So the believers in Yeshua HaMashiach are to remain vigilant as the coming of the Messiah is at hand. Matthew chapter 24 verse 44 says, so you must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him.